We will continue with the Christmas story. Today's story is called A Christmas Eve to Remember. It would become Sarah's first Christmas since the divorce. "I'm really not looking forward to this," she whispered to herself as Christmas Eve had officially started. Sarah had always been a bit reserved. The trials and tribulations of a separation and divorce only served to demolish whatever self-confidence was left. After sitting at home and trying to forget the past, she sighed and decided that home alone was not going to work tonight. "I've got to get out of here for a while," she declared as she hopped up off the sofa and headed for the coat closet. She headed out down the sidewalk of the relatively quiet neighborhood where she lived. Strolling down to the town center area, she passed several people out taking in the cool night air. "Merry Christmas." One passing couple greeted in unison. "Merry Christmas to you too," she nodded in a low, muffled voice. "I only wish it was going to be a Merry Christmas for me," she said to herself. Sarah continued down the streetlight-illuminated sidewalk. A few minutes passed and a young boy and girl, probably 12 or 13, stopped and asked her if she had seen their missing dog. "He's a small dog, white with brown spots, and he got loose a few minutes ago," the young boy explained as the young girl was trying hard not to cry. "Can you help us look for him?" the young girl asked. "No, I haven't seen any lost dogs tonight. I can't help you look for him." "Sorry," Sarah said as she continued on her way. The center of the small village, like neighborhood, housed a park, complete with lights strung high and a 15-foot Christmas tree. She found a park bench facing the decorated tree and sat down. A few minutes passed and an older man dressed like Santa Claus stopped in front of her. "May I sit down for a moment?" he asked. "These boots are killing me. I've been at the toy store down the street today for the last several hours. Must have been 200 boys and girls who were telling me what they want for Christmas. Children always amaze me." "Sure, why not? Have a," she said with a brief, almost fake smile on her face. "I hope you're enjoying this Christmas Eve." "It is. Well, okay," she replied. "Just okay," he probed. She shrugged her shoulder and sat there quietly for several moments. "Perhaps you have a reason that it is just okay and not a wonderful evening." "I guess I'm a bit down," she hesitated, "and I don't think I feel like talking about it." "Ah," he replied. "I see, eh?" Silence ensued for a minute or two before Sarah spoke up. She offered, just recently divorced. First Christmas alone in a long time. No children or anyone to share it with. She sighed. And the list goes on. He nodded as if to agree. "I don't expect you to understand," she said in a defensive tone. "It sounds like you do have reasons to be down and depressed," he agreed. "I have been there and I really must be going," Sarah interrupted as she stood up. "Go if you must, but may I offer you the one thing that helped me when the times were the darkest?" She started to walk away. In those moments when you are helping someone else, it is almost impossible to be down and out, he said in a loud voice that she could hear as she moved further away. She paused for a moment, looked back at him, and then continued forward at a faster pace. She soon reached the other end of town center, found another park bench, and sat down. She was startled by a loud thud sound a few feet in front of her. At first, she thought someone threw a rock near her. But on closer inspection, she saw a bird flailing around on the ground. She approached the bird slowly and noticed that a piece of a styrofoam cup had become stuck on one leg and wing and was preventing the bird from flying. After a minute or so of following the bird around on the ground, she was able to catch it and remove the styrofoam, freeing the bird. The bird immediately flew away. "Bye-bye, little birdie," Sarah smiled as the bird flew up into the dark sky. For the first time in recent memory, she felt a sense of purpose and accomplishment. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of someone shouting "Merry Christmas" at regular intervals. The sound grew closer and closer. "Hello again," she said, as she recognized the source of the Christmas greetings, the Santa Claus person from earlier in the evening. "Ho, ho, ho, and a Merry Christmas to you," he proclaimed once more. How has your Christmas Eve been going? He asked. Sarah told him about the bird and what had happened. That poor bird must have been terrified, being defenseless and not knowing what was going to happen next, he concluded. Glad I was here and able to help, Sarah replied with a smile. So your night has been good so far? He asked. She thought for a moment. Yes, I would say it has been a good evening. It didn't start out that way, though, she explained. She paused for a moment. I guess you could say it took a small bird and a piece of styrofoam to show me something important, she realized. Seems to me like the bird removed the styrofoam in your mind that has been holding you back too. The jovial yet serious Santa Claus replied. Yes, I think you are right. She smiled. Off in the distance, Sarah noticed two small figures crossing the street shouting something. I have got to go, she said to the energetic Santa. What's the hurry? He asked with a wink as if he already knew the answer. Look over there, she pointed at the two figures. Those two kids are hunting for their lost dog, she explained. I saw them earlier tonight. I have got to go help them find their dog. I am sure with your help their dog will be found. Thanks for helping them, he offered as Sarah walked away. A few moments later, she stopped and turned around. And thank you for the gift of a wonderful Christmas Eve, she said with the biggest smile she has had in a long time. God will bless you. We will continue with the Christmas story. Today's story is called Home for the Holidays. This Christmas Eve was a bit on the cold and windy side with the sun, due to set in about an hour. In front of the animal shelter facing the road, a big white banner with large green letters proclaimed Home for the Holidays. Looks like we did very well this year, Millie smiled, looking at the empty cages. Yes, Justin confirmed. Between yesterday and today, we must have had 30 adoptions. The foster families came in and took most of the other animals, Millie added. I'll take the last 2 dogs. That leaves no one to be alone in here over Christmas. If you want to take one of these guys home with you, that's okay, Justin offered. Millie answered. I lost my dog, Rocky, 3 years ago on Christmas Eve. And I don't think I'm ready for another dog right now, or ever for that matter. It would be for just a couple of nights, you know. Home for the Holidays, Justin reminded Millie, pointing to a poster advertising the event. I know, Millie sighed, sadly remembering Rocky's passing. You go ahead and take these 2 dogs. You can leave now, and I'll close up. Okay, Merry Christmas, Justin smiled. Merry Christmas, she replied, returning the sentiment. Justin left with a large brown mixed-breed dog and a smaller black and white terrier. A few things to straighten up and then I'm done here, Millie thought. Locking the front door and posting a closed until December 26th sign in the window. After finishing some paperwork, she was ready to leave. On her way out the front door, Millie heard a whimper and noticed a medium-sized black dog tied to a trash can outside a few feet away. What do we have here? Millie questioned as the whimpering continued. Hi there, she greeted, slowly approaching the animal. The dog was excited yet confused. Millie saw a note attached to the makeshift rope leash. I found this dog a while ago. The note started, and I can't keep him any longer. Please find him a good home. He is a nice dog. I called him Banjo. Thank you. Oh, Millie sighed. What are we going to do with you? Glancing back at the dark, empty building she just left, Millie thought for a moment. Let's get you into the shelter, she decided. Millie untied Banjo and they went inside. Turning on a light, she gave the dog a closer look. You need a bath and a good brushing, Millie recommended. Banjo had some fleas and was underweight. On the surface, no other major problems were found. After a bath, brushing, and a flea treatment, both Millie and Banjo felt better about things. Are you hungry? Millie asked. Banjo looked up and panted. Let's get you some food and water, she said. Millie filled a water bowl and put some food in a second bowl. An excited Banjo gobbled up the food and drank about half the water in the bowl, occasionally stopping to look at Millie. Poor thing. You are so thirsty and hungry, she observed. After Banjo finished eating, Millie attached a leash to his collar. You want to go out? Millie suggested. Banjo started bouncing up and down, indicating a yes to the question. Millie and Banjo went outside to the back of the shelter for a quick walk. Millie thought out loud. It's getting colder. They headed back inside, with Banjo leading the way. Millie looked around the shelter, thinking about what to do next. Visions of her deceased Rocky crept to the forefront of her thoughts. She was at a crossroads. I just can't. Millie sighed. I can't take Banjo home with me. I'm not ready for another dog at home, especially on Christmas Eve, the anniversary of Rocky's death. She made a place in one of the cages for Banjo with a dog bed, water bowl, and some food. Here, boy, Millie called out. Banjo whimpered and resisted any movement toward the cage. His excitement changed to anxiety. Millie thought a moment and decided to move the dog bed along with the water and food bowls outside the cage. Here, Banjo, you don't have to go in the cage, Millie consoled, patting the dog bed and motioning him to come closer. Still, Banjo would have no part of the makeshift arrangement Millie had made. Banjo sat down, whimpering with alternating looks between Millie and the front door. Banjo, come, Millie said in a raised voice, taking a more commanding approach. Finally, Banjo got up and came over to Millie in the dog bed. He curled up and put his head down. Good boy, Millie complimented, patting Banjo's back. I'll see you in the morning. You will be safe and warm here. Millie tried to reassure Banjo she would return Christmas Day. She got up and headed to the front door. At this point, Banjo was only uttering a slight whimper along with a sad, disappointed face. I'll leave a light on. Good night, Banjo, Millie waved as she went out the front door. Banjo curled up tighter in the dog bed and rested his head, wondering what the night would bring. After a few minutes had passed, the wind outside began howling. Banjo's head popped up as he heard a sound in the direction of the front door. The door opened and Banjo immediately stood up, excited, and let out a few barks. Hi, Banjo, Millie said happily as she walked in. Banjo wasted no time before he ran over to Millie to greet her with puppy kisses. Hi, boy. I can't leave you here all alone on Christmas Eve. It just isn't right, she explained. You're coming home with me, a confident, smiling Millie proclaimed. Banjo looked up and, with tongue hanging out, smiled as only a dog could. Thank you for showing me. It's time to move forward, Millie said, putting a leash on Banjo. Together they headed out the front door into the cold, windy night to go home. Millie looked around and saw the familiar large white banner with green letters, home for the holidays.